Yeah. Yeah, it's just right here.
You're right. Okay.
So
Uh,
the door,
Yeah.
which says employees only, but
well, I always sit at the front desk, let them off.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. Nice meeting you.
yeah,
See
good
you later.
seeing you.
See you soon. Thanks again. Thank you
Yeah.
for the escort.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
no problem.
Wait one minute. Just to see if Hillsborough pops on. Can't keep my hair out of my mouth. Did you have a good lunch? Well, I ate part of it. I'll get the rest of it after the class. What'd you have? A salad. Hi.
Did you see your buddy?
Brown, brown cow. Oh, Gray.
James Gray. Oh, is he?
He was. He
He
just
brought
left.
you some banana bread.
All right, well, they may not be able to figure out in Hillsborough how to. Mike, can you, in the leadership, can you text and ask Jamie if Hillsborough's hopping on?
Paul, where you at? How's it going, sir? Well, good.
On earlier. Brown chicken, brown cow.
Have you seen Paul? Robin's looking for him.
No.
Oh,
There it
Robin's
is.
looking.
There.
Found it.
Who is it? Paul. Come here.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Lorraine show up to your home tour on your house yesterday?
I don't recall.
I don't recall it either, but I just thought I would ask.
You okay?
I know she went to Rachel.
No, she was at the other one.
She was at the other one,
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
but you had to go to both of them in order to be.
I
Put
went
in
to
the
both
drawing.
of them.
Oh.
And turned in a sheet, right?
They would like you to.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are talking about the offer to purchase and contract. I know this is repetitive, however, the more you hear me say it, the more that you'll remember and retain. The seller is the proper name of the seller. It is James Wooten, not Jim Wooten, even though we all know him as Jim Wooten. His actual name is James Wooten. No pseudonyms, no nicknames, none of that. The actual seller's legal name. The seller could be a trust, it could be an estate, and it could be an entity. If that is where the property is held, that's who the seller is.
Okay, so I thought estates. So like, are you talking like Michael McCann heirs? Michael
Yes.
D. McCann heirs?
Yes,
Can you do Michael D. McCann heirs, Carrie McCann executor?
yes. Yes,
Does the executor need to be shown as part of that seller, as the one signing?
There's a form for, well, you put the, so in command, you would actually put the will or the documentation that shows that you're the executor.
Right.
Then whose name goes on the offer to purchase? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I,
So offer to purchase would be, Michael D. McCann
heirs.
heirs. And then when we get to the signature page, that's where you sign as the executor.
Okay, so my name does not go in as the seller.
No, no.
Just clarifying.
Yes, yes. So
I always
the
thought
buyer
it
for-
said that dead people can't sign.
that's correct. They can't. That's why you're signing on behalf of,
But because it's willed or deeded that way,
yes.
Okay,
Whoever owns wherever the property is being held. So if it is, irrevocable trust of James Wooten, that's who the seller is, because that trust holds that property. James Wooten, as the executor of the trust, is the one that signs to convey the
or
property.
it could be
Right.
another trustee.
There could be another trustee.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
okay.
Uh,
Just wanted to clarify that.
yeah, same thing, if it is, SM Ward Construction. Same thing. Scott or Karen signs on behalf of the entity.
As member or whatever.
Vice President, unpaid secretary, is what my title is. Unpaid Vice President Secretary. Same thing with the buyer. So again, no pseudonames, no nicknames, proper names. Again, the buyer could be a trust or the buyer could be an entity as well.
I think, one of the things that we have started doing is asking for that, photo ID in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And saying, this is how this is going to be
Yes,
signed
yes, yeah, absolutely.
for both buyer and seller for that.
Yeah. Hey, Rhonda. Good, how are you? There you go.
Where we working on?
Offer to purchase.
Okay, get rid of my stuff.
Okay. So, property. All of the information in this section you have access to from from your tax card research. So none of these should be blank unless they don't pertain to the property. So some of them that might be blank would be lot/unit, block/section, subdivision or condominium, plat, book, slide, and page. Those may be blank because it may not be in a subdivision. The first two, the lot, unit, block, section, that's the old way that we mapped properties. I'd be surprised. I still don't understand why they're still holding on to those, but
I put the lot, if it shows a
if
lot
it's a
number, if it's
subdivision,
in the deed or
Yeah.
whatnot, I'll put that lot number in there,
Okay.
but yeah.
yes.
I always put the phase in the block or
A
section.
lot of times that comes up under the other description.
Other description.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there may or may not be a plat. The property may be so old that there may not be a plat on record. However, if there is a plat, you're gonna find that on the plat will be referenced on the tax card. The PIN is your, the 8-digit number that's on the tax card. That's your PIN, starts with an 8. Other description on the tax card, there may be, it might say legal description or other, and that's where it might say phase 2, section 3, blah, 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 blah. That's where you would put that other description in there. That helps the attorney when they are doing the title search. So putting that information in there, and then the deed book and page, there is always a deed book and page. Sometimes people say there's not a deed because it's new construction. Well, somebody owns that dirt. And so it might be a deed for the entire parcel, but there's still a deed. Property will or will not include a manufactured home. If it does, there's a section that we'll get to later. Will or will not include an off-site and or separate septic lot, boat slip, garage, parking space, or storage unit. Typically in our area, we are only going to run into off-site or separate septic lot. Unfortunately, we don't have boat slips. There could be an off-site garage, some of the townhomes.
I have seen off-site garages
Yeah.
out in the county.
And then parking space or storage unit, same thing. Most of the time you're gonna run into those with a more urban property, like maybe downtown Raleigh. That's a condo and your parking space is in the parking garage that's next door, whatever that, that sort of thing. And same thing with storage unit. And any additional parcels that might be subject to this contract. That would be, let's say that there is, there's a house. We have a lot with a single family residential house on it, and then a vacant lot next door. Seller wants to sell both together. That's where you would reference the additional parcel. Purchase price, pretty self-explanatory. Due diligence fee. Just a reminder, due diligence fee is payable, made payable and delivered to the seller or as directed on the effective date. We do not accept cash. Personal check, official bank check, or wire transfer or electronic transfer. My recommendation is either official bank check or electronic transfer. Personal check, it can bounce. Wire transfer, if you're doing a wire transfer, then you're either if your people want to do a wire transfer, my recommendation is have an attorney be the middleman. So the buyer wires the due diligence funds to the attorney then wires to the seller. But if it's not a huge amount, you know, if it's 5,000 or less, then electronic transfer is, if they aren't local, or even if they are. However, keep in mind that there are some people that don't have a Venmo or Cash App or Zelle account. And so in that case is where I would recommend an official bank check, because we don't have to worry about it bouncing if I'm on the listing side. I would also recommend it if you're on the buy side as well, so that it doesn't bounce, and then you have a voidable contract.
And you have to chase it later.
Yes, yes,
Which can be more of a hassle.
yes. And then we have initial earnest money. Again, and that is delivered to the escrow agent within 5 days. Escrow agents are going to, so the closing attorney, are going to want either official bank check or a wire transfer on that. Then we have additional earnest money. So made payable and delivered to the escrow agent no later than 5 p.m. on the date. Time is of the essence. You would want that date to coincide with the end of your due diligence period. Assumption, seller financing, consult an attorney. There is a form, but it probably it's not thorough enough for what that assumption or seller financing might look like. And then we take our purchase price minus all of those things, and we get the balance due at closing. So I want to talk about earnest money just real quick. My opinion of earnest money has changed a bit with the shifting market. In COVID, my mindset was, why are we doing earnest money? It's a waste. We kind of got away from it. People were doing large amounts of due diligence. My opinion on it has changed slightly, whether it's initial earnest money or additional earnest money. And the reason being is because I'm seeing more and more where buyers are holding sellers' property hostage. I had this happen to me because you're at the end of due diligence and you still got 3 more weeks before you're supposed to close, and the buyer continues to do inspections, continues to want to negotiate, and they got no skin in the game. They're not going to get their due diligence money back. And also the other thing is they have either communicated to their agent or they themselves are like, we're going to terminate, but they're going to wait and terminate. And so essentially holding the seller's property hostage. If there's initial earnest money or additional earnest money, the buyer has more skin in the game now. So more to walk away from. And I think it also encourages them to abide by the expiration of due diligence. Because they know, oh, I'm either not going to get this money back if I don't make a decision by the end of due diligence, or I got to fork out more money. So it forces them to make a decision by the due diligence date.
And is it true that a due diligence date really doesn't mean anything if you don't have earnest money?
That is correct. Yes.
Just a date that really doesn't,
Guideline.
because they can still negotiate and those other things.
Sure. And even if there is initial earnest money or additional earnest money, they can continue to do inspections and they can continue to negotiate. Again, the seller doesn't have to do anything, but the buyer just has more skin in the game now to be a little more reasonable.
So, and for me, when we get into the due diligence stuff with regard to the offer to purchase, there's a lot of things in there that have to take place or that should take place during the due diligence period.
Correct.
Such as loan approval and final title work. When does that normally take place?
The day before closing.
So why isn't our due diligence dates going all the way to closing? I mean, honestly, because
Ours does.
they're supposed to incorporate all of those things within the due diligence because it's a part of the due diligence.
Yes.
Now, another agent wants to bring me an offer that's in 2 weeks, the due diligence is up in 2 weeks. Okay. I like the idea of the earnest money.
Yeah.
Because they can get right up to the day of closing.
Yeah.
And
that's all they're out is the due diligence money.
right.
So when we incorporate in the earnest money, then it puts a little more skin in the game for the buyer.
So do you think we should do due diligence and earnest money?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you-
Well, as a buyer agent,
No, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, hold on, it depends.
Yeah.
So if you are representing the buyer, then I would say no, don't do it. Just do due diligence.
Mhm.
If you are representing the seller, you should be asking for either initial earnest money or additional earnest money,
as well as due diligence.
as well as due diligence, yes.
Depends on who you represent.
It seems that, that due diligence is so unfair to a buyer because they don't get it back if something goes wrong.
But the seller don't get that time back that they've taken it off the market for that buyer. either.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But I know that due diligence came over to us from commercial, correct? I mean, because that was when the
Mhm. Commercial.
They still don't
Commercial
have due diligence.
Yeah, commercial does earnest money only.
Oh, okay.
Um, I think it came about from exactly, what we're talking about is before we didn't have, before, when we only had earnest money, then the buyer puts up earnest money and seller takes their house off the market for all of this time, and then the buyer terminates the contract and they dispute the return, how the earnest money is supposed to be distributed.
Mhm.
And so the seller has taken their house off the market for all of this time, and the seller has nothing to show for it. So I like,
I remember when they put it into place.
yeah,
But I think that, and you have to think about this, but that goes back to some agents aren't willing to do backup offers.
yeah.
I mean, we still try to obtain those backup offers.
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't be where we're at on Olson Drive if we had not had, well, we didn't really have one, but
We had somebody that was interested.
Okay, seller concessions. This is, any amount, that is agreed upon at the time of offer that the seller will pay on behalf of the buyer at settlement. It can be this can be a dollar amount, or it can be a percentage, either one. Due diligence period. So again, you check only one here, not both. So due diligence starts on the effective date. Effective date meaning the date that the last person executes the offer to purchase. Extends through 5 p.m. on a date. So you put a date or number of days.
Is that typically like 2 weeks? What would be a good number to put in there?
Yeah, it just depends. Like my saying, as many as you can get if you're on the buy side. I see, and it also depends on if it's an extended closing, if the buyer has to sell something before they can buy this one. I would say if I just had to throw out kind of a common number, somewhere between 15 and 21. You just want to make sure that it's enough time to get the inspections done that the buyer wants to get done. Make sure your buyer is on their, given everything to their lender as far as their loan goes. Typically within that time, you should also be able to get the appraisal done. I hear what you're saying on the title work. It doesn't concern me as much because that's really on the seller. It doesn't harm the buyer because if something comes up on the title, that is beholden on the seller to fix that.
They usually don't look at that though, and that's part of the due diligence for the buyer to
Yeah.
look into those things.
Sure.
Which is what their attorney's gonna do, but they typically don't do it till the week before.
Yeah.
And you don't get final income verifications until 3 to 5 days before.
Yeah.
So your final loan approval and all of that doesn't even happen in most cases during the due diligence period.
Right. Yes. Yep. Settlement date. This is, I call it, having a settlement party. This is when we all show up to the closing attorney's office and the seller signs what they're supposed to sign and the buyer signs what they're supposed to sign. It's what we call settlement, separate from closing. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So this is the date that we say, okay, this is when we're all gonna get together and have our settlement party.
Quick question.
Yes.
And this is just kind of like my other question. Does due diligence, the amount of due diligence money,
Based on the price of the property. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's say on a $500,000 house, what would, you recommend?
At least 1%.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In most cases, I would say, I would say at least 1%, unless you are aware that it's competing offers, then that may make your offer better. And then, you know, kind of the same thing, if it is, the due diligence only makes your offer stronger. So if you're but that's the other thing too, is it's kind of like going to Vegas. Don't gamble more than you're willing to lose, because they're not gonna get that money back.
And it does not, let's say the closing comes, does it get deducted from?
Yeah,
the
they get
price?
credited for it at
Okay,
closing.
okay.
Yes, yes. There's 2 times that they have, that the buyer can have due diligence refunded.
Okay.
One is to go to closing.
Uh-huh.
The other is a seller breach.
Yes.
Or non-disclosure possibly too.
Which I think would
Yeah,
still be a breach, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't it, but, and I say this because of the, oh, hell, the lawsuits and stuff, that you reference it in a roundabout way, not that it's customary, but that you
Due
can
diligence?
anticipate, yeah, I'm sorry.
The due diligence,
Uh-huh,
well, it's all negotiable,
right, I
but to
get
make,
that.
but it's like Karen said, to make that offer stronger. And you want it to be as strong as possible, and it depends on, I mean, if you walk into a $500,000 house and you feel like there's things that aren't quite right with it, I mean, you got wonky floors or, you know, serious cracks, you may not want to put as much
Right.
until you get it investigated. You know, it just depends on the situation in a lot of cases.
Yes. Escrow agent, this is a, if you have earnest money, this is a required field. If you don't have earnest money, then you can put TBD or buyer's closing attorney of choice if there's no earnest money. If there is earnest money, you must identify who is holding that money. So just keep that in mind. Effective date, we talked about what the effective date is. Due diligence, we talked about what due diligence is, the buyer's opportunity to investigate. Due diligence fee, negotiated amount, if any, doesn't have to be, paid by buyer to seller with the contract for the buyer's right to terminate the contract for any reason or no reason during the due diligence period. It's the property of the seller, and it's credited to the buyer at closing. So if you are the listing agent and you deliver due diligence money to your seller, tell them to go to the bank and deposit it immediately. Had situations where seller threw it in a drawer, forgot about it, we get to closing and the seller's like, wait, I didn't get that money. And, you know, so go deposit this immediately. And again, all of the things during the due diligence. Settlement, we talked about, I mentioned settlement. So this is the proper execution and delivery to the closing attorney of all documents necessary to complete the transaction. So that's the seller's deed, that's the seller's affidavit, and then that's also the loan package on the buyer side as well. And any monies that need to be sent in order for the closing to go through. That's settlement. Closing is when everything is actually recorded. So difference between settlement and closing. At settlement, the seller still owns the property. At closing, the buyer now owns the property. So this is why we don't release keys at the settlement party, because if something were to happen and the property didn't record because the lender didn't fund it, you know, or whatever else, then the seller still owns that property. And if the buyer got the keys and the buyer's got all their stuff being moved in, that can present a problem.
Do those things typically happen on the same day if possible?
Typically.
Yes, yes, in most cases. So, yes, so typically, a morning closing, if it's a morning closing, the attorneys will e-record everything at lunchtime. If it's an afternoon closing, they will e-record 3:30. So if you have for whatever reason, and most of the time the attorneys won't do this, but sometimes they'll accommodate people's schedules. If you have a closing at 4 o'clock, it is not going to be recorded that day.
Okay. Yeah,
Because the register of deeds will not take any e-recordings after 4:30.
okay.
And I think that's part of the reason why you're finding attorneys closing their offices on Friday for closings.
Yeah.
They're there doing the recording and
Yeah.
if need be from a late afternoon closing or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
I know we used to never want to have a closing on a Friday.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, me and my husband.
And now it's
built the
Thursday.
house and we closed on a Friday. We had the lawyer that's like right over here.
Oh, Ashley Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, we live in Graham and it was on a Friday and it was at 11 o'clock, but they were like, come back by the office in the next hour or two and pick up your keys and they were ready. So
Yes,
obviously it got recorded. I didn't know how that worked,
yes.
but yeah.
Now that they're able to e-record,
Mhm.
it happens a whole lot quicker.
Okay.
Like back in the
You had to
day.
take it down to. the
Oh,
house.
Or
yeah.
you'd see all the paralegals.
Oh, everybody
running-
in line,
running
yeah,
down to the-
yeah, in line, waiting, yes,
Oh, that's
in
funny.
line.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So yes, typically it happens, it's those situations where, where the attorney might say, we're still waiting on funding from the lender and, and then it gets late in the day and they aren't able to confirm the wire, whatever,
Right.
that they are like, well, we can't record, so that's why we deliver keys at closing, not at settlement.
Yeah.
Just a note here that, North Carolina, we are an attorney state. An attorney must do the closing. It cannot be done by, an unlicensed individual. Fixtures and exclusions. Fixtures included in the purchase price. All existing fixtures are included in the sale as part of the purchase price, free of liens, unless excluded in another section that we'll get to. So everything that is on here, specified items, both traditional and smart versions, anything exclusively dedicated related equipment or remote control devices, for any of these items on here. So everything that's on here. This is also on the listing. This list is also on the listing agreement. If you're on the list side, this is just a reminder to your seller. All of this stuff remains. If for any reason it does not, then we need to exclude it. Yes.
On here, it says all bathroom and all mirrors, but I have seen where it was not mounted to the wall, but on a hanging picture, hanging like a picture. And the seller has taken the mirrors from the bathroom.
Yeah, the seller has to replace them.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Now, if it's a decorative mirror and in the hallway, you've got a decorative mirror hanging here, the seller can take that one, but bathroom mirrors all convey. And this was a change that happened when we started getting decorative mirrors. When they started became the big thing of a framed mirror and whatever, you didn't have the thing that was,
Wall mounted.
Yeah, the wall mounted, yes. Because that's exactly what was happening, is
Yeah.
that they were taking them and the buyer had the expectation that they were staying, and so that's why they.
Yeah, I think the clarity of that was the biggest issue because nobody really pictured that because of the description as it being something that's really kind of necessary and you would think would stay, but I remember when they changed that as well.
Yes, yes. Same thing with drapery rods. The curtains themselves, or draperies themselves do not remain, but the part that's screwed into the wall and the pole remain.
Those things can
All the
become expensive.
Yes, they can, yes, all the hardware with it.
I mean, that's really a good thing because I can remember when they would take the rods and then you would have these awful holes
Holes in the, yeah,
in the
Deep out
wall,
windows,
when
yeah.
and the buyer would walk in and there would be these big crumbling holes, especially in an older house where
Yeah.
there's plaster.
yeah, with plaster,
Yes.
yes.
And wall anchors about that long.
Yeah.
Yes, so, all of this remains if, you know, for some reason, so outdoor trees and plants. So let's say that there is a sentimental rose bush in the flower beds, and it does not convey, obviously, it's not something that you would dig up until you were going to dig it up and move it to the next spot. It would just need to be as an exemption in, when we get to exempt. Any questions on fixtures? Unpairing, deleting data from devices. So this is just a reminder to our seller to unpair any devices that will convey from any personal property devices. So a lot of times you can just hit it back to factory settings. The example that I give on this is, well, I have two now. One, the person forgot to reset their security system. And the buyer walks in one day and there's the seller on video, not wearing any clothes. Yeah. The other example that I give on this is, so let's say that I live and this is the house that I'm selling, and the house that I'm buying is around the corner, but it's on the same street. So I'm passing my old house to get to my new house. And as I'm passing my old house, I hit my garage door opener to open my garage door, but I forgot to unpair. So it opens my old house garage door
As well.
and now the garage door is wide open, puts for liability. You know, somebody breaks in, you know, comes in, steals everything out of the garage, goes in the house, whatever else. That liability lies on that seller. This survives beyond closing. Any damages that may happen survives beyond closing. Items that are leased or not owned. We are not going to talk about fuel tanks right here because fuel tanks has its own section. This would be any satellite dishes, antennas, receivers, appliances. Appliances are a big thing. Did they go to Rent-A-Center and they're leasing a refrigerator or a stove and it's to convey? We need to make sure that they own it. Alarm and security systems, and another is solar panels. Big one is solar panels on this one. My advice on solar panels is if you have a buyer that wants to buy a house with solar panel, talk them out of it. But if they really, really want it, then
And expect that.
Or you've got a seller that thinks they ought to put them on the house.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're attached, but they're not owned. So a lot of times with solar panels, there's like a long-term lease
So
on
they're
them.
not even yours.
And right, so they're not yours. I mean, they come and they put them on your roof, but you have to pay
To keep them.
every month for them to,
You know what?
yes.
It's like putting a roof on your house. They come, you pay for everything. and-
No, because they're very expensive. And so that's what they do, you know, they'll do a long-term lease on them. And so that's where we need to make sure, because those have to be paid off at closing by the seller, or the buyer has to be willing to assume the lease, assuming that the solar panel company will allow them to assume the lease, because they have to qualify in order to assume the lease. So that's my advice on solar panels. So, items that are leased or not owned, okay, that must be identified here and shall not convey. Other items that do not convey. So this would be that section above, this would be where we would put, rose bush in flower garden in back corner of house, whatever, that sort of thing. Or anything else that was on there that, that would not convey. And then we have personal property. This is not a fixture. This is personal property, freestanding, not attached to anything that that would convey. So typically this is going to be your washer, your dryer, your refrigerator. It might be the swing on the front porch, or it could be that pergola thing on the back patio, you know, those things that, those sorts of things. It could be patio furniture.
Above ground pool, like those big circle things, are those considered personal property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any of that would go in here. Be careful that we aren't putting high dollar, high ticket items on here, because then it may throw up a red flag with the lender of, you know, if we've got the the $7,000 zero turn lawnmower on here, then the lender's going, wait, am I financing a house, or am I also financing a zero turn lawnmower? So if there are big ticket items like that and they're being conveyed at no value, or if the buyer is going to buy them from the seller, then use the bill of sale. We have a bill of sale form that you can use, that those items can be put on there, and that is not shared with the lender. Just so you know.
Not considered an additional addenda.
Yeah, and it's
either.
not attached to this contract. It's a totally
It's just a
separate.
bill of sale for personal property.
Mhm.
And that's exactly why we don't attach it.
So that's a lender that can see it.
Well, we're not trying to hide anything. It's just a separate transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. Separate agreement, yeah. You know, because like if all the furniture in the house remains, again, put it on a bill of sale, just because it may red flag the lender.
And it could be for $1. It could be that they're
Yes.
willing to just leave it.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
just do it for $1.
doesn't necessarily, there doesn't even have to be
An amount.
any monetary exchange. But still, you just use the bill of sale, even though the sale is for $0.
And if it's a fully furnished property, you definitely want to do it that way.
Yeah,
Because the appraiser will see that and go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is this offered price because of all this?
Okay, due diligence. These are all the things that we talked about that the buyer wants to do during the due diligence period. Loan, property investigation. This would include any inspections, review of documents. So in command, the reason that we have restrictive covenants as something that needs to be loaded in if the property has restrictive covenants is because you should be sharing them with your buyer. You don't interpret them for your buyer, you're just sharing them. So an email, here's the restrictive covenants, because if the buyer says, well, I really want to have a chicken coop. Can I have a chicken coop? We don't want to say, well, the restrictions don't say that you can't have a chicken coop. I'm going to send you the restrictions, you review them, and let the buyer make that decision on their own. Yes.
So that's kind of like, I have a client now who, is looking for a property where she can maintain horses and chickens.
Mhm.
And I've been calling other agents saying, do you have any restricted covenants? Any restriction that they can't have horses or something like that. So you saying just give it to them and don't.
Well, so when you're looking for the property, so, it depends on the number of horses, because you have to have 1 acre per horse.
Mhm.
And, so the type of property, it depends on the number of horses, the type of property that they're looking for is probably gonna be in a rural area anyway. And so most likely you're not gonna have restrictions. And, you can always, look up restrictions in the Register of Deeds by the name of the subdivision. And obtain those. Insurance, this is a big one. We need to change our mindset on insurance. We've always waited until like the last minute to remind the buyer, hey, contact your insurance agent. And make sure that they have the rider to the closing attorney. We need to be proactive and ask them to do that up front. With the things that we're running into as far as not insuring because of the age of the roof, the cost of the insurance. So a buyer might say, well, I found out that my insurance was gonna be $5,000 a month and I can't afford that. Well, that's fine. They can still terminate the contract, but they can't get their due diligence money back, but they feel like they should be able to. So insurance, appraisals, again, that's out of your control. A survey. We always recommend a survey. Zoning, governmental regulation, and governmental compliance.
Biggie. It's a biggie.
That's a biggie. Yes. Is the property zoned for the use that the buyer intends to use it for? Also, any proposed road expansions, those sorts of things.
That does include permitting as well, yeah.
Yes, that includes permitting. This is where your fiduciary responsibility, the real estate commission says, did you make an effort to determine if the addition was permitted? And so that's what this part of this is, as well. So did you pick up the phone and call Alamance County or City of Burlington or whoever, wherever the property is located, and say, do you have any permits on file for this? And if they say no, okay, great. Then just make sure you're documenting that conversation, that you at least made the effort to determine if there had been any permits.
So Karen, we know that you can look that up for Burlington. You can go to the city of Burlington's website. They have their permitting there. Is that sufficient, or do we still need to make the call? Let's say we don't find anything. Do we still think we need to make the call? Would that be a part of our due diligence, either as a listing agent or a buyer's agent? Because typically they've got them uploaded.
Oh, yeah,
So I don't distrust Burlington,
yeah.
but
Well, and all of them, Guilford County and Castle County, I know you
Oh,
can
that's
also, you
same.
could, yeah, you
Right.
can look them up online as well.
Orange County, you can too.
Yes, and Orange County. If depends on,
so the seller says, yes, it was permitted, but nothing shows up.
okay, when was it permitted?
Because then I can call the
Correct.
appropriate
Yes,
authority and say,
because
hey,
if they say, oh, yeah, well, we did that addition 10 years ago
Yeah.
and it was permitted,
they don't
then
have permits from 10 years.
that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we would just have to take the sellers, and that's where the seller would need to write on the R-codes, addition permitted in 2016. And this, because the seller's filling that out. Let's see, flood. You want to know why I require you to load a flood map? Here you go. It's a disclosure. Utilities and access. The buyer would want to make sure that, any utilities that they, desire to have are available. Streets and roads, again, are they, is it a public road, a private road? Any of that, and, investigation of the existence of special assessments that may be under consideration by a government authority or owners association.
And I've just noticed Elaine's on the screen now.
Oh, hey, Lorraine,
Does she have a question?
did you have a question, Lorraine?
Mm-mm.
No,
No,
okay, all right, just double checking.
I just saw that it wasn't muted and I wasn't sure. So.
Okay. So next thing, sale, lease of existing property. This is a disclosure. This is not a condition of this offer. It is a material fact disclosure that the buyer must make to the seller for the seller's consideration of their offer. Again, it is not a contingency. We do not have a contingent offer. Property is being sold in its current condition. There's no need for an as-is addendum. It's covered right here in the contract. No need to put it anywhere else in the contract. Property being sold it's already in there. Buyer's obligation to repair damage. So during the buyer's inspection, should any damage come to the property, the buyer is responsible for repairing that damage. So this would include they're doing a septic inspection, and the little track hoe that they had to get in the backyard to get the lid off the tank tore the grass up. Well, the septic inspector has to fix that grass from that inspection. Home inspector falls through the ceiling.
It's happened.
Yes, yes, it's happened. Buyer / home inspector is responsible for making that repair. This does not include if there is termite damage or wood rot and the inspector jabs their screwdriver in there and half of the
Floor joist.
floor joist falls down.
You might
That-
get out.
That damage was already there, and that's part of their normal inspection. Buyer's right to terminate, provided that the buyer has delivered any agreed upon due diligence fee. Buyer shall have the right to terminate this contract for any reason or no reason at all by delivering to the seller written notice of termination during the due diligence period or any agreed upon extension of the due diligence period. Time is of the essence. If it's 5 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock. It's not 6 o'clock. Closing shall constitute acceptance of the property in its then existing condition unless there's a provision otherwise made in writing. So, had situations where closed on the property, 2 weeks later, the well runs dry. I mean,
That's a sad situation. I'm
it's
sorry.
unfortunate, but there's nothing to do with the seller. You know, I mean, it's just like if I, if I sell Carrie my Tahoe and
Oh my God.
Yes.
You had to bring that in.
and everything is in great working order with my Tahoe, and then I sell it to Carrie, and 2 weeks later, the transmission goes out. Didn't have anything to do with me, probably didn't have anything to do with Carrie. It's just one of those things that happen, but she can't come back to me and say, well, you sold me this car and you knew.
You sold me a lemon.
First of all, Carrie should have done her inspection on the car that she was buying. So,
Okay, I don't want your car anymore.
yes, you do.
Right.
Yes, you do. So again, closing shall constitute acceptance. A lot of times buyers will come back and want to ask the seller for something after closing. This is where we need to make sure that our buyers understand. This is also where, if you go on a final walkthrough and something is not done, is not completed, do not close. Unless the seller is willing to hold monies in escrow with the attorney for whatever needs to be done and sign indicating that they agree to, then you need to delay that closing. Don't close and then your buyer think that they can go back on the seller afterwards. They can't. Even if they say they're gonna sue them or whatever. I mean,
I had to buy a furnace.
yeah, I think. A lot of people have bought refrigerators and
Refrigerators, stuff like that.
hot tubs and, yeah, those sorts of things.
Fireplace and,
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. Buyer representation, again, this is a disclosure, cash. We love it when we get offers in that box is checked. Or loan, and what type of loan is it? Is it a first mortgage? Is it a second mortgage? Do they have to get both in order or other funds? This would be maybe gift funds from mom and dad. It could also be,
Could that be like 401k?
it could be 401k, yes.
That type of.
Yes, yes. It could also be, it just left me, the neighborhood, there's like Good Neighbor Next Door, there is NC Housing, those things where they may be getting money, grant monies or whatever from
Greensboro
another
had some
source.
programs, so I think
Yes.
that's what you're thinking about, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
That wouldn't
NC
necessarily
Housing.
be a mortgage, first or second, it's just other funds are coming in.
In
from
addition
another
to,
source.
yeah, so they've got a loan. And
Yeah.
part of their loan is, if it's with NC Housing, is that $15,000 is coming from NC Housing.
That's interesting, I've never thought about putting it there. Matter of fact, I've never put anything like that in there. Of course, anymore, we don't get loan details. I mean, we're fortunate if they check first mortgage and what type of loan it is.
Yes, yes,
Y'all fill that as best you can.
yes,
Seriously.
yes. It is it's a disclosure to the seller, because again, the type of loan may impact the seller, how the seller wants to negotiate the offer. And
And if you've got one offer that's 80% loan to value and another one that's 100% loan to value, both conventional, well, which one's a better offer?
yeah,
Yeah. And I'm not saying that makes it a better offer or not, but it could.
it's a factor in the decision of the offer that the seller may want to accept.
By the way, that's one
Yeah.
of those 19 negotiable items in the offer to purchase.
Yes.
I'll let you.
a lot of young people in their twenties, say buying a condo, their very first place, and parents have been giving them $5,000-$10,000.
Mhm.
Is this the place where we put that
Yes,
in?
yeah, and you also need to make sure, hey, David,
And
I need to make sure it's approved by the lender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the lender has always required a note from the parents saying
Right.
this is a
This is
gift.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not something that has to be paid back.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of that.
Yes, you would just indicate it on here that it's gift funds. Yeah. Any other questions?
Dang, I learned something again today.
Golly, see what happens when you come to class, you're gonna learn something.
Every time I come to one of these training classes, there's something I pick up on.
Again, this is only a disclosure. It is not a contingency. However, it is a material fact where the buyer does or does not have to sell or lease another property in order to qualify for this one. If they do, what's the property? They have to disclose the property address. Is it under contract, or is it listed? Will it be listed? Or is the buyer attempting to sell it for sale by owner? Again, disclosures that are important to a seller in the consideration of the offer.
So one thing Karen, seller is strongly encouraged to obtain the review the contract on buyer's property prior, if it's under contract. If I'm that other buyer's agent, what am I providing?
So you're providing the offer on their current property.
Do I black out anything?
You can redact, you can redact the buyer's name. You can, redact, due diligence money or earnest money. You can't redact the price,
See, I've seen the price redacted.
and you can't redact the date either. Anything else, you can.
Interesting. That's something else. I knew you shouldn't do that because I've received it with the purchase price and, basically that whole. Huh?
Jim,
No,
where his
this is
purchases are
one,
coming from.
this is from before. But I mean, that's a good example. Because if he puts in a contingent offer on that when closing, then we're gonna need to get a copy of that contract.
You can't do contingent offers.
If it fits into that category of having to sell or lease other property. Because it says if it's under contract or not.
Alright,
Disclosing, checking off that the buyer has received, R codes and MOG. Timely payment of earnest money deposit, due diligence fee, dishonored funds. Guys, I know we have run over and I understand, no, I will not be offended if anybody needs to leave. If you can stay, then, bye. Then, great. If you can't, understand. So earnest money, due diligence, or bounce check. That requires a form. Demand for monies is the form, because non-delivery of the earnest money, non-delivery of due diligence, or a bounce check, non-receipt of funds per the contract can make the contract a voidable contract. The seller has to demand the monies. If the buyer does not produce the monies once the seller has used the form, demand for monies, if the buyer does not produce, then the seller can unilaterally terminate.
Y'all keep in mind too, that if the listing agent calls you and said, the seller's not going to, well, I'm not going to deliver a signed contract until I get the earnest money, they can't do that.
Right.
Say that again for me.
So let's say that the seller or the seller's agent has contacted you and said, yeah, I've got the signed contract, but I'm not going to send it to you until I receive the due diligence stuff.
Okay. They cannot.
They can't do that. You're under contract.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm gonna disagree on that. That due diligence money is due
Oh, it's due.
right then.
No, it's due right then. What I'm
Yes.
saying though is the listing agent can't holding that
Correct.
hostage
Yes,
by doing that because
Yes.
you haven't delivered funds.
yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's 9 o'clock at night and you're gonna take it to their office the next day, then yes.
And quite honestly, and I loved it when this was like right below on the first page. And knowing that it's on page 6 now is good to know too, but there's a lot of people that don't realize Form 355 is what you use to request that money.
Yeah.
It could be at the time your seller signs that offer. They can go ahead and sign that and say, okay, you've got one banking day to get me the money.
Yes,
Let's say you had 5 people wanting or had offers on the property. Be a great opportunity if you didn't receive it at the time of the offer to go ahead and demand it so that if it doesn't come within that one banking day, you can move on to the next offer.
And keep that due diligence.
yes, yeah.
If you ever get it.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too, is that's where you would want to use that demand for monies. And we're not authorizing any inspections until monies owed or
You
delivered.
can do that.
Yes, you can do that. Because again, the buyer has an inspection and they haven't delivered any monies to the seller, but they have an inspection and then they back out, then, the seller's left with nothing. And the listing agent having to explain, well, why did the house go back on the market so quick? So again, just know that if monies are not delivered, that is the route that you take for those. Ownership, how long has the seller owned, lead-based paint. If there is an HOA, it should go in this area. If there are regular dues, like not like a road maintenance agreement that we pay $150 a year for some gravel to go down on the road, but they are, I always use Macintosh just because it's easy. There might be, there might be two associations in Macintosh. And one of them might be this much per year. One might be this much per quarter. That is a ding, 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 ding. I need an owner association addendum to go with my paperwork for the buyer to sign. We talked about fuel tanks. Fuel tanks. There is or is not a fuel tank. If there is the tank currently in use, currently not in use? Is it owned or leased? And what type of tank is it? Let me, I just had a disagreement, let me just say that, with a buyer agent about a propane tank. In the state of North Carolina, you cannot own a propane tank that is serviced by a propane company. They are all leased. They lease them because they have to regulate them, and they have to, so they're not going to come to your house and fill up your gas grill propane tank. They're not going to do that. So if you have propane service, that tank is never owned. It's always leased.
I know that. Can you make a printed copy of the?
And then you would just want to disclose, is it above ground, below ground? Who is it leased from? And the name and contact for the fuel vendor. This is where you would also disclose if perhaps there is an underground oil tank. This is where you would disclose that as well. The tank is included in the sale. Any tank that is owned is included. The fuel that's in the tank, whether the tank is owned or whether the tank is leased, is included in the sale of the property as well.
Even if the seller just filled it up.
Yep. Leases is or is not subject to any leases. This is just a disclosure again. If it is if it's an income producing company, income producing property, meaning a rental, whatever else, there may be a lease attached to it. If there is, then you would want to use the additional provisions addendum for getting those leases and rent rolls and things like that.
So we have to put out a addendum to get them.
Mm-hmm. But Paul's like, I gotta go right now. Yes. And I think I may have returned your file asking for the additional provisions addendum.
And it basically identifies who's the property manager and the
Yes.
rents and whatever.
Yes, yeah,
I think the one you're talking about, that's, oh my gosh, he's his own property manager.
yes.
That's scary.
But he still, he still has to provide the leases to the new upcoming owner, because that upcoming owner is bound by those leases.
But so we've done that, but then in the process of us giving that and being on the contract and going to closing, 2 of the tenants left, which caused the issue as well. Even though it's clearly said they was on a month-to-month after their lease was over. But it caused the issue there at the closing because we had to refund monies and all that stuff had to be moved around.
Yeah, because they needed to get their security deposits back, and security deposits have to move from the current owner to the new owner. Yes, all of that. Yeah, we do that with the additional provisions addendum. Authorization to disclose information, this 8B, this was put in here to help our closing attorneys because we used to have to, the lender wouldn't release the payoff unless this was signed and, whatever else. By them adding this section in there, it says that any attorney is allowed to request information on my behalf. Same thing with HOAs. HOAs got pretty good.
Most of the time, your attorney's gonna send the seller an authorization form anyway, of the
Yeah.
payoffs and
Yeah.
whatnot. So they're just asking them to do that, but,
Say,
apparently, yes.
Access to property. There's a key word on here, and the key word is reasonable. Seller will provide reasonable access. The seller can deny a showing or an inspection or I want to bring mom, dad, grandma, and sellers having a birthday party at the house for that. Okay, so that's not reasonable for again, reasonable being the key word there. Removal of the seller's property. Remind your seller to get their junk out of the house and around the house. Nobody else wants your junk either.
People have bought houses with attics full of,
Oh, Christmas ornaments and.
They never even looked up there.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, like when I sold my mom and dad's townhouse, I had to, I went and did a walkthrough, before I went to closing. And, my mom had left the bathroom rugs and, which were nice and they were expensive, but I'm like, oh, I'm going through there picking everything.
What about old paint? Yeah, nobody walked the whole damn.
Well, if it's still the same color,
Yeah.
then I would leave it.
It's not.
If it's not the
Gotta
same
go.
color, then it's gotta go. It's gotta be disposed of, yes.
You're right.
Especially if it was recently painted.
Yes.
I can see leaving that paint, but stuff that was from 10 years ago that the wall's not even that color anymore.
Yes.
They just say
Yeah.
dollar.
Seller shall execute and deliver a general warranty deed. Lauren Nance was here yesterday and talked to us about that. It was great information on the definition of a general warranty deed and what that means. Just know that if there may be an opportunity, there may be a time when it's a special warranty deed, like a bank-owned property, a foreclosure, some of those. It doesn't mean that the property isn't still insurable. You're still going to get title insurance on it. It's just going to be the type of deed in which you get it. But once you have your title insurance on it, then you can then convey it by a general warranty deed because your title insurance policy is going to cover anything that may come up. Deed taxes and fees on I right here. Run into a couple of things where the lenders want us to go back and modify a fully executed contract. Just a reminder, we can never modify a fully executed contract or agreement. So, for instance, mom is on the loan, but mom wanted to add daughter to the deed. And to add daughter to the deed, the lender wanted the contract modified. Well, you can't modify the contract. And we couldn't use the agreement to amend because the daughter wasn't going on the loan. The daughter was only going on the deed. So you can leave this blank and you can instruct the attorney how the deed should be made.
Hmm.
Yes. So, because the attorney is, or you can put in here, I see, a lot of times, I know, specifically, Melissa White will put in this area, as instructed by buyer to attorney.
So would that apply to, you know, how like recently, some deals I've had, they've been cash deals in a person's name. Then a week from, well, a month, well, a couple weeks from closing, they come back and say, hey, we want to put it in our LLC and we got a loan.
Yes.
So could they put that name there, or would it be a?
Well,
just
if
do
you,
another
if you
contract?
knew about it at the time of writing,
At the time of writing the offer.
writing the
I did.
Yeah.
offer, if not, then no, it's just.
Yeah. You can't go back and modify a fully executed.
So I just make them
Contract.
do a whole new one
No.
again. That's what I've been doing.
That's what she's saying. Don't do that.
Yeah, but, okay, so you have to terminate the first one
Okay,
before you can write a second one. Because if you don't terminate the first one, now we got two.
okay,
Now we've got the individual that's obligated to purchase the property, and we also have the entity that's obligated to purchase the property.
okay, I got you. So I've been terminated in command.
Yeah, no, you gotta actually send the termination for the buyer and the seller to terminate that contract. Mutual termination, and then you have to write the new one, and then any monies that were attached to the first one, you transfer on your monies page. You would just indicate that they're transferred from previous. If you run into that situation, call me and ask me
I will.
how to handle that before we
Wow.
start having multiple
Right.
offers,
right.
multiple
So
contracts out there.
so instead of him terminating, could he have just left it alone and that buyer could instruct the attorney to do it that way? That's the best, because
Yep.
there's really no. And I mean, of course, the attorney's probably gonna want to prove that there is an LLC set up and all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that they're able to transfer it or deed it that way.
Cause it was the other agent who told me, that the attorney wanted, us to amend or, do another contract. So I said, let's just keep it simple. Let's do another contract. Mhm.
And that's fine, but you just needed to terminate the
Terminate,
first
right,
one.
right.
Yeah.
Did they DocuSign it?
Yeah, they got to sign.
So how was it dated?
Well, the date of whatever.
And I already knew that. and
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
So now you have, as Karen said, you've got two agreements if you
Mhm.
didn't terminate the first.
Right. But that's how these companies are trying to steal by. They come in and say it's cash on the person's name, then they come back and say, oh no, put it under the business name now.
Okay, so if because in most cases, in that situation, the lender is going to want to see that the contract is in the entity name, not in the individual name. So in that instance, you can use the agreement to amend, and all you're doing is changing the name. And so original contract still in place, we've just changed the name of the buyer. The buyer is
So I use
now,
that, yeah.
yeah, the buyer is now the entity, not the individual. And then they just instruct the attorney to make because agreement to amend goes to the attorney as well. So the attorney's gonna see, oh, okay, now we're going to deed it into,
Right.
Yeah.
Is that,
That's what I've been using, yeah, 'cause I think you told me about that, I think.
yeah, the agreement to amend.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one you're gonna cover next week? Or is it-
Yes.
Yeah, we got forms. next
Yes,
week. It's the
yes.
following.
Next week is miscellaneous forms. It's those forms that we don't use on a regular basis, but when do we use them and how do we properly use them? When
And the
it's,
agreement to amend is one of the more important ones, because there's a lot of things on that can change this.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the only thing that can change this,
Or the leasing agreement, or.
or the
buyer
listing
agent.
agreement, or
Yeah.
the 710 is
710,
is
that's right.
the, yeah. Okay, home warranty, gosh, I know we've run way over. Condition of property at settlement. I'm gonna make a note about this because we just had this happen. Tree fell through the house a week before closing. Buyer does not have to.
Right.
They don't. And they are entitled to any earnest money. They're entitled to any, due diligence money, if they terminate. Due diligence money and earnest money, they're not entitled to inspection fees. Because it's technically not a breach of the seller, it's just a change in the condition of the property, and the buyer has chosen not to move forward with the purchase.
And they can move forward, and it explains
can.
that. And they could even benefit or be the recipient of the insurance money,
Yes,
which
Yes.
explains that in there.
yes. Delay in settlement, 7 days, you got 7 days. Possession. And then you've got your, any addenda. Make sure, just a reminder, if it is a, if it's lead-based paint, for lead-based paint, you need to check it in 2 places. Check it where it says the property was built prior to 1978, and then also make sure you check it on here as well.
Karen, go back to the possession. One thing I like about the paragraph where it says that, it says there, that the possession will be delivered upon closing as defined. So going back to what we talked about earlier, it reiterates it here, that possession is then, that's when they, and it says it, all means of access to the property and transfer of amenities and services, keys, all that stuff is when that would take place. It spells it out. I don't think
Yes.
it didn't before, or didn't used to, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
It's probably been there several years now, but.
Yeah. Tax deferred exchange, talk to an attorney. Computation of days, time of day. Time of day is the time of day in the state of North Carolina. So Eastern Standard Time, keep that in mind if you've got a client that's on the West Coast or somewhere else. The 5 p.m. is our 5 p.m.
Property location.
Yeah, not their 5 p.m. Also computation of days, that is consecutive days. It is not business days. So that does include Saturdays and Sundays. So on your due diligence, if you put 21 days, you might want to make sure that that 21st day doesn't fall on a Saturday or a Sunday, because that is including, and if you've got last minute inspections, you might not be able to get those done over a weekend. So just keep that in mind, that those are, talks about breach by the buyer, seller, basically breach by the buyer, seller's limited to liquidated damages of due diligence money and any earnest money that the buyer had. Breach by seller, buyer's entitled to due diligence money, earnest money, and cost incurred by the buyer. So that would include inspection fees, any appraisal fees, any of that, if the seller breaches the contract. And then we've got our signature page. So real quick on this, again, what's our buyer's name, proper name, whether it be entity or individual, and a human, if it's an entity, a human always signs on behalf of the entity. You have to be careful in DocuSign because you have to put the person as the signer in when you send the envelope out, because otherwise DocuSign is going to automatically create it with the entity
Name, right?
Yes, yeah. So, so just be aware of that. So whether it's on the buy side or whether it's on the sell side, and again, make sure you're identifying the name and the title. Again, this helps the closing attorney. Number one, it helps us to be able to verify, can that person actually sign on behalf? And it also helps the attorney as well, because the attorney's pulling articles of incorporation, they're looking at wills, you know, all of those things. They're verifying that the person that signed is the person that's authorized to sign.
So just to verify what you're saying, 'cause there was a big debate a couple of days ago at my house about this. With an entity, and we got a client's entity, the person that signed needs to sign where it says buyer, signature and all that. And then the name of the company goes under the entity and then he signed again.
Only once.
Only once, okay.
Yeah.
Don't you
So,
worry about the top two buyers.
yep, you don't worry. This is only if if the buyer is a human
Okay.
at the top. If the buyer is an entity, that's where it is this part.
Or a seller, well, I'm trying, seller.
Oh, a seller, either way,
Same way,
same
either
thing,
way.
same thing, yeah. If the seller is a human, if the seller is an entity, you put the name of the entity here,
Mhm.
and then you put, so, SM Ward Construction, Inc., Scott Ward, president, and then Scott Ward, the human, signs it.
And that's the tricky part in DocuSign is to make sure that the actual, that Scott
Signs.
is the signature there, not S and W.
Yeah, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
I've seen it, so
com-
I know.
Yes, confirmation of agency, again, just a reminder on,
Yeah, I'll fill this out.
yes,
Right.
complete it. All of this information is on the MLS sheet. The other agent's information is on the MLS sheet.
It's also an NCREC.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yes,
When I started, agents would send your offer back to you, so you gotta fill that out.
oh, I'm
I
still
still
getting them
do.
where I have to fill them out.
Miss Cindy was the one who did me like that.
Oh,
Oh. yeah, no, they get returned.
Oh, yeah.
They get returned if you don't put the firm license number
right.
on there.
Oh,
Yes.
I've had wrong
The only
information on
thing
my
that
site.
the only thing they won't get returned for is if you don't put the fax number,
Right.
because nobody uses a fax.
Right.
Yes, so just make sure that you are completing this correctly. If, Paul, if it's your listing and it is an agent from Coldwell Banker on the sell side, tell me what boxes you're gonna check, both for the firm and for the individual agent.
If I'm the listing and they on the sales side,
Yes,
you mean if they on the buy side?
Well,
Yeah,
they're
they're the
selling,
selling
the
agent.
selling
Oh,
agent. Yeah.
I ain't think that way, okay. So they would fill out,
tell me what boxes you would check on your side.
Yeah, go one back.
so I would, if they're from a different firm, that I was acting as buyer agent
Okay, let's fill out your side first.
on my side.
Your side, yes.
Oh,
So how is the firm acting?
if it's another agent for Caldwell, would we just do, seller's agent?
That's correct,
Um,
okay. And then individual agent, do you check anything under individual agent?
Yes,
What?
well, I'm not acting as a designated, no, so I'm
That's
checking
correct.
anything, no.
Yes, yes, so you don't check anything. If we are a seller's agent, then you never check anything underneath. And the only time that you would check underneath is if it is an agent with KW Central. So I'm gonna give you another one. Mike, I'm gonna give this one to you. Mike, you are the listing agent and Rhonda is the selling agent.
Okay.
Tell me how you would fill this out.
Under listing agent, dual agent, and then designated under individual.
Yes.
Same thing under hers.
On Rhonda's side, she would be the firm would be a dual agent, and Rhonda would be a designated dual agent. Questions on that? You can't be a designated agent with somebody that's not in our office.
I had one checked a couple weeks ago that said seller agent on my side, seller agent and dual. Both checked. I didn't even know you could do that.
So while we're on this page, and then I'm gonna let y'all go, I promise I have talked a whole lot. Let's say that you are you're the listing agent and the buyer is an unrepresented buyer. How are we gonna fill out the listing agent side? The firm is a seller's agent, and that's it. Okay, because the only time we check designated dual is when we check dual, and this is an unrepresented buyer. So your information is going to go on the selling side as a seller's subagent.
Hmm.
And you're going to fill out all the same information on, so there's never at any time is there just one side of the transaction on there. Whether it is a for sale by owner, so for sale by owner, you're over here, you're also over here. You are acting as a buyer's agent, you're not acting as anything over here. So the firm is not, so you wouldn't check anything. You're always on, there always needs to be somebody on both sides, whether it's for sale by owner or whether it's an unrepresented
Okay,
buyer.
so if it's a for sale owner, their information goes on that listing firm side? Is that what you said?
No, I'm sorry,
So if
I
yeah, I'm
misspoke. No,
representing the
thank, yeah,
buyer.
no, thank you for, yes,
okay.
thank you. If it's a for sale by owner, you would just put FISBA.
Okay,
And just your information. It's when it's an unrepresented buyer
Yeah.
that both sides are filled out.
That was information overload for me, so I'm sure when I get to that point, I will be asking the questions.
Yes.
And I'm gonna look at it tonight, so maybe it'll get
Yes,
up here.
well, and I talked a whole lot today.
No, not that, just that page, just that page.
That if it's an unrepresented buyer,
Mhm.
that you automatically become their agent?
No, no, if it's unrepresented buyer, you are a sub-agent of the seller, meaning you are representing the seller and the seller only.
so your listing,
In the buyer.
So
the buyer calls you direct and you write the offer, but they're unrepresented.
Well,
So unrepresented, they are going to, you're gonna give them a, working with real estate agent. And you're gonna check that very bottom box that we don't ever hardly check, that says unrepresented buyer on the working with real estate agent. And you're.
No other form necessary.
No other
Agent.
form, no other agency form necessary for an unrepresented buyer.
Okay, but, okay. Did,
But
did the young lady
we
accept
we
the,
just don't put anything.
But you
Um,
would be on both sides.
No.
Yes,
the young lady yesterday.
because you're a sub-agent of the seller.
See right here, you've got,
Didn't she get an offer?
so right
yeah,
here.
she didn't accept that.
So they're unrepresented, but you
Yeah.
can put your information here.
If they do.
Any questions from any of my Zoomers?
Trying to do the open house. We got showing.
I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate you hanging on. I know I ran way over today, but I hope you did get some good information.
Yes.
And if you don't have any questions, I'm gonna.
You're not, but you are,
But,
belong to me,
This is what it goes.
you're still a sub-agent, because you work for the firm. It's honestly, agency is one of the most misunderstood concepts of real
Yeah.
estate, honestly.
Definitely.
It really is.
So
That's one thing that
I know I scanned it.
I've really concentrated on, really